Yo, so one day, about 3 in the morning, coming out of the Bronx project building, overnight shift, I was working, and something really bad happened. What happened? The crew that was rendering patient care, well, basically what happened was there was 1 BLS and 2 ALS. We were the second ALS to arrive because it was a dupe job. A dupe job is when they send an extra unit without noticing that there's already a unit there. So they send us ALS thinking that the patient needed ALS, but there was one already on scene. Luckily, we knew these guys, so we show up to the scene and started socializing and helping them with the patient. I don't have to render patient care. I'm just hanging out, pretty much, me and my partner. As we're coming out the building, we're talking smack, and the patient literally hit a bump on the project wall, on the project floor, hit it face first, and tipped over and fell off the stretcher into the ground while having her lower extremities attached to the stretcher. I'll break it down to you. I'll tell you everything that happened on why that patient fell off the stretcher and got hurt. That stable patient turned into a notification, by the way, due to head trauma. This is what happened. We came out 3 in the morning. The EMTs were probably tired. The paramedics were probably fatigued from working a 24-hour shift. Number one. Number two, the top strap was not on this patient. The top strap, as I said before, and I'll say it again, when you have the top strap on, this is one of the most important straps to have on because the heaviest part of the body is the torso. This from the waist up is the heaviest part of the body. If you don't have the top strap on, then you might as well have nothing on, pretty much, right? Number three, there was a hole in the floor that the stretcher hit, and that's what made the inertia knock the patient over. So when this happened, it happened because of the fact that the stretcher was going at a speed that was too much. Secondly, I remember one EMT had one strap on the response bag, and the other EMT had one hand on the stretcher. You're supposed to have a minimum of 3 hands on the stretcher. They only had 2. And they were distracted by socializing. They were distracted by walking around and talking. They didn't look at the floor. It was 3 in the morning. It was dark. They probably couldn't even see the hole when the hole was there. But on top of that, they were holding on to things that were not a priority. At this point in time, if the patient was on oxygen, the ideal way to put on that bag, the oxygen bag, is with both straps. Give her on the oxygen. Not transport the patient just to transport the patient. Like, be mindful. Do it and be thinking about what's the best way to avoid worsening the situation and improving the situation at the same time. So in this case, the ideal way to proceed would have been not to be fatigued. It would have been a better lit area. The EMTs would have had 3 hands on the stretcher. And also, on top of that, the top strap would have been on, and they would not have been off balance by one of them holding with one hand the stretcher, the other hand of the same person was holding like the laptop to write down the patient care report, and then the one in the back had one hand on the stretcher and the other arm holding the book bag with the oxygen without even using it, and then it was only on one side, so it was 2 hands instead of 3. Remember, you're supposed to have a minimum of 3, and if you're going down a hill, go down backwards. So if the leg of the stretcher is behind me and I'm going down a hill, what I do is I hold the stretcher and walk backwards while looking back. This patient fell down, had to be notified to the hospital, and she was on blood thinners and hit her head. I think it turned into a lawsuit or something. This was years ago. So I say that to say this: prioritize the patient, transport the patient, and worry about everything else later. For example, if you have a critical patient, rush them into the ambulance. Leave the stair chair outside. Leave the bags outside. Don't leave them on the scene. Don't just leave them and like, oh, fuck it, I don't need to deal with this shit, I'll worry about it later. No, take it back with you to the hospital, wherever you're going. But if you have to decide between what's more important, packaging up your equipment or loading the patient into the ambulance, takes priority. Then you load the equipment later. I hope this helps. Peace.